looks like online we have Adrian Beck, Bradley Seaman, Bryce Christians, Cheryl Hartman, Christina Dwar, Alicia Buckholz, Jason Hauser, Jenna Miller, Kyle Leonards, Maddie Scott, Melissa Fisher, Nathan Cohen, Ray Reiser, Sarah Bell, and MCAP. In 206, we have Commissioner Bureau and Slotnick, Allison France, Brian West, Annie Claffey, Ann Hughes, Chris Lamsbury, Carrie Powers, Andrew Chorney, Andrew Hagemeyer, and we have Griffin Smith.
Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? We have 3 items on the consent agenda. They're employment agreements. Anything needs to be pulled out or discussed?
Just passing this, they're all PhDs. Straightforward. I move we pass it.
Second, any further discussion or public comment? All in favor? Aye. On to action items. We don't have any nor correspondence, so we will discuss our one-time budget proposals.
Yeah, so commissioners, just to lay a little bit of groundwork before we get started, we're going to look at one-time requests today. Just as a reminder for everybody, you'll formally vote on these when we get to your public meeting, when you actually formally adopt the budget. So today, what we're mostly looking for is that at least 2 of you, and of course there are only 2 of you here today, would be in support of the one-time requests. We're going to start off with the general fund requests. We have about $600,000 approximately available for one-time requests out of the general fund. That is coming through the TIF remittance that the city is providing this year. And so that's what we're looking at. A couple of notes for some of these one-time requests are things that we have were in previous budgets and that we kind of have committed to. And so I want to just highlight those as ones that we'll need to move forward as part of this. And the first one of those, about halfway down in the general fund, is the temporary safe outdoor space bathroom move. These are the 2 bathrooms that were at the Johnson Street shelter that were donated to the county to be moved over to the temporary safe outdoor space. And then the next one is right below that, and that is the change to the building at the courthouse to move to having one entrance at the north side of the courthouse by the installation of the security wall and the changes that will happen to that north entrance. And then the last one that I wanted to highlight for folks is a little more than 3/4 of the way down in the general fund. It's the one for the library green roof project. The library was successful in receiving a $1 million grant for the library's roof replacement. And so this is the county's portion of the match for that grant. It's a total of $100,000. It's $50,000 for each of the 2 years, this year and next year, that they are asking for the county to fund out of the general fund. So $50,000 this year and $50,000 in FY27 when we get there, for a total of $100,000.
So the total for everything you just said, those 4 items, is $425,000. Is that?
Yes, both the courthouse wall and the temporary safe outdoor space can be capitalized, though, as well as some of the other projects that you'll be considering today. So it may be that we issue a limited amount of debt under that, and then you would be committing to the ongoing debt service if that's the direction the commission chooses to make when we get to each one of those projects individually.
Can you explore that or provide us some numbers, what that looks like? If
Would it be possible to add into that some of these others that feel very kind of capital facilities physical, like the steps in the courthouse and
Yeah, so as we get to each one of those, we can talk about those and then make a decision as to whether you want, whether that is something you want to support, and if so, we can talk about whether that's something that we can capitalize. And we have Andrew here who can help us understand if we were to issue debt.
Great, thank you.
What that might look like.
So we're just going to walk through these.
I think that's probably the easiest way, is to just go down the list. We'll get as far as we can today, hopefully at least through the general fund. I know Amy McGee was going to try and join us between 10 and, she's already on. Okay. Between 10 and quarter after for the one item that she has as well for district court. So once we're through general fund, we might jump to district court, or if you wanted to, we could even start with district court, where our clerk of district court is online for her one item.
Let's just start with
that for Amy's sake.
So Amy doesn't have to wait.
If that would be great. So the one item that Amy has on here, this is something you've actually considered in previous budgets. And this is the move of the Self-Help Law Center from the space that it currently occupies directly adjacent to the clerk of district court across the hallway to over by where the jury rooms are. And Amy, I'll let Amy add what she might like to about this, but they have a pretty significant space needs issue around exhibits in particular for court cases.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning,
Josh.
everyone.
Josh has something funny here.
2160, 2170.
Why do you, yours looks, where's yours?
It's 2180.
Oh, right
It's
here.
right below the strike through for Leadership
Oh, there it is.
Montana.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Sorry, Amy. There you go.
Took
It's
me a
okay.
minute, sorry.
Yeah, so we are seeking funding to remodel one of the jury rooms across the way. It's still on the second floor of the courthouse where the public is used to seeking help for from the
Yeah.
Self-Help Law Center. So we're seeking funding to remodel a jury room and relocate the Self-Help Law Center
Yep.
so that the clerk of court and my exhibits, my sealed cases that are currently housed in the basement of the admin building can be relocated and closer to us. It would allow us to finally and efficiently house our ever-growing exhibits. It's pretty embarrassing the way that they are being cataloged now. So it would save up a lot of space. It would be such a more efficient move for that. And currently the Self-Help Law Center, they do help members of the public. I think they help about 10 to 20 people a week. And the space that they're currently utilizing, it is underutilized. They're often closed. And so we've been working with the Office of the Court Administrator about finding a space for them for about 3 years now. I think it's a little over 3 years. And working with the district court judges and the OCA, we have finally identified a space. One of our jury rooms across the way on the second floor is also underutilized. And so we have come up with a plan to turn that into the Self-Help Law Center, which would free up not only the basement area that the secured storage that I have in the admin building. I think it was over 3 years ago, the clerk of court office was asked to consider vacating that space because of the space needs in the admin building. And that's taken us a little while to identify a space for those items. So I'm asking for just a one-time funding using my cash savings. We anticipate in FY26 it being about 60,000.
And they do have in their capital budget.
There, so this is coming out of general fund.
This is a non-general.
Oh, fantastic.
Special.
That it's easy to do.
I'm going to take it as
Yes.
though the commission would be in support of that, and we will add that to the list that goes into.
No, we're just discussing
Yeah, I
today.
mean, given that Amy's got this money squirreled away, good on you, Amy, and hope that this works and ends this issue, which we've been hearing about for a long time.
I know, yes.
What are we going to
Big-
talk about?
So few things to talk about. No, not really. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
day.
All right, we can jump back to the top of the list here.
So can I speak to this one? Are you all right
Yep,
with that?
of course.
So this
Yeah.
is something I was interested in. And Griffin, if this crosses you, be like, what is up with this? The Colorado Association of Ski Towns. And yes, you're right. This is my desire to shred the gnar on the county's dime. No, this is because I've been to these folks' meetings before, and this is one of the only groups I visited where their issues actually rhymed with ours. It's all the same stuff. Cost of living far outpaces wages, tourists outnumber residents, and it's really difficult for somebody who earns $20 an hour to make a living and be in this place. So I went to one of their meetings and oh my God, this is the first group I've ever been to where they're talking about exactly the same stuff that we wrestle with, though the scale is really different. But this is not the year to continue our membership. So
You're going to withdraw
I
that one,
appreciate
Josh?
going to this place. I'm not going to do it because we don't have the money.
The second one is the National Public Employers Labor Relations Conference, or NPELRA. The state actually is going to have a conference this year, so we can withdraw that one as well. And I'll just attend the Montana
Great.
Labor Conference, so we can withdraw that one as well. The next three here are kind of conferences that the commission has attended in the past, specifically around our climate goals with Mountain Town, and then the National Association of Counties meetings, which one is hosted in DC. That's usually the policy meeting and where you spend some time with legislative leaders on the Hill, lobbying for items. And then the other is the kind of, I'm going to call it the executive side of their conference, where it is more kind of the leadership piece, looking at that organization. And of course, the challenges that face county leadership across the United States with both the peer counties that are roughly our size, but also the larger and smaller counties.
So I have an idea here. What do you think about this? Let's just kind of hold these in abeyance for a moment, work through the rest of this list and see where we're at. Is that?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense to me.
So the next two items that we have are for Leadership Montana, the master's class and flagship program. This is to cover the tuition and travel for staff from the general fund that's attending that training this year. Those are kind of our premier leadership training that we try to get folks into across departments. We have a number of departments that participate in these kind of classes. This particular year, these particular ones are in the general fund because these employees are inside the general fund. So that includes myself, Commissioner Strohmeyer in the master's class this year, and then Mel and Adrian Beck, sorry, in the flagship training program. So I would recommend, given its relatively small cost of about 28,000 for both of those about.
The flagship is higher because
Yeah.
there are more sessions that
Sessions,
people
sorry,
have to travel to attend the master's class.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
4 sessions.
Yeah.
I think it's
So,
They're so, they're
such an
so
important
worthwhile.
program, and you can feel it throughout the county, so I
Okay.
feel good about those.
The next item up on here, I don't know, Mel, if you want to speak to this at all, but this, as we move over to Workday, in order to keep inventory for our internal central services department, they need a small piece of technology here that's pretty low cost. It's an iPad to allow them to be able to scan items in our central
Well, this
services
is
inventory.
outrageous.
I was gonna say, yeah. So I don't know, Mel, if you want to add anything to that?
No, the hope is that with this iPad, we could return to in-person shopping down in central services. So people could go downstairs and pick out their item and leave. Right now, it's a little bit more complicated. So an iPad would help us get there.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. The next one, I'm not sure if Bradley's had a chance to join us yet.
I think there's a whole bunch of them on.
No, awesome, great. So I'll let them speak to this, but obviously they are looking to replace a couple of pieces of equipment in elections that they need in order to be able to serve the public during election time. And so Bradley, or I'm not sure who's on besides Bradley. So Bradley and or others on from elections, if there's anything you'd like to share with the commission around the Ballotar printers.
Morning, everyone. This is Nathan with the Elections Office. We're actually hoping to be able to replace a couple of our Ballotar printers. The Ballotars are what we use for our ballot on demand system. We utilize these really heavily at satellite events, where when we go out to remote communities like Frenchtown, Seeley Lake, gives us the ability to print ballots on demand. And that allows us to make sure people can get ballots and service a little bit in advance of the election. We also use these at our at the Gray Wolf Peak Casino, where we also have another satellite office on election day and in the days leading up to that. The printers that we currently use are no longer supported by the company, which means supplies are harder to come by and we have problems getting them to print sometimes. So it'd just be really important to us to be able to replace these printers. It's been 10 years since we've had them. They're starting to give a few issues, just like to upgrade them.
Also agree that this is
Yeah, really.
basic necessity.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Nathan.
So the next one that you'll see on here, maybe one that you want to consider lumping in with some of the other projects, but as part of the legislative process in 2023, the legislature set aside money specifically for courthouse upgrades related to courtroom security. Missoula County was successful in getting $25,000 to help with putting a special film on glass that basically makes it so that when or if something were to happen to the glass, it would not kind of come out of the window, right? It would be more like what you see with a windshield, where it would in essence just kind of all stick together and spider. In order to do what was recommended by the review of the courthouse that was done by the Department of Homeland Security, the total cost to do that was $40,000. So we got a grant for $25,000, which would leave a gap of $15,000. And you may want to consider adding this into some of the other courthouse capital projects when we get to them as one
Yeah,
option
let's
to
see if we
fund.
can kind of put all the courthouse building projects in one bucket for a moment.
Yeah. So we can hold on that one and think about those when we get to it. Here, so next below that is a request from facilities. So for those who are not familiar with the acronym DIACS, it is the Denver International Airport Control System. Originally designed for the Denver airport. This is basically what controls all of the doors inside the detention facility. So when you think about going through the detention facility, we of course have to have secure doors in each of the pods, and as you wander through or go through different parts of the secure facility there, certain doors can't be open at the same time as other certain doors, right? Because they create a straight run through of the facility. And so the system, while it doesn't seem like it would be very complicated, is actually very complicated because it always needs to know the state of every single door in the facility. And then as requests to open or close doors occur, the system has to present those in the right order to the operator. This system has been in place since the detention facility opened. So now almost 22 years ago that the detention, no, a little more than, gosh, what year did it open? 2000, a little more than 25 years ago that the facility opened. And so it has reached its end of life. And so we need to explore what other systems would be available or might serve the purpose of ours. So the request this year is not necessarily the cost to replace that, but it is the request to have some of our staff that works on these kind of critical systems go to other detention facilities and see the systems that are used so that when we write a request for proposals, we know exactly what it is we should be asking for in that. And so this really is to cover the staff travel to go and look at 3 or 4 different facilities of comparable size and scale so that we can understand the needs of that. We are also taking into consideration the fact that Flathead County is, well, may, if their voters approve, be constructing a new facility. So there may be information that we can learn as they are constructing their facility. And so that may change this number in a downward direction. But we, when we were budgeting for this, when I was working with facilities, we budgeted the maximum amount that would be necessary in order to go and tour at least 4 facilities. And that to have at least 2 members of staff do that travel would be about $25,000.
Piggyback on Flathead.
Yeah, we may be able to learn some stuff there. Their jail will still be a little less than half the size of our facility, but again, they'll be looking just like we were at the time, kind of at what is the latest and greatest technology that's available when it comes to construction of
And we have
detention
no
facilities.
sense yet on what that actual cost would be for doing the replacement.
We do know that will be a
Substantial.
hundreds of thousands of dollars because there are just a number of doors, cameras.
Are there grants? I mean, well, we're going to look for all the things.
We will look for all the things, but generally speaking,
Nothing for it.
there are very few grants out there for like capital pieces of detention
I can only
facilities.
imagine the trickiness of doing this, actually physically doing this.
Yeah, and that's why having folks like, Andy Nelson from our IT department who works on that system and Sean Chandler, who's the electrician who works on that project, having them actually go and interact with their peers to understand how they manage that is kind of a really important piece.
Put that
of
in
that.
there right now.
Okay. The next one is one of the ones, again, that we talked about we may want to consider as capital, and I do need to follow up with Jason on this. This is a replacement for the heating system at the public workshop up in the Sealy Lake area, and
They don't need.
I am not sure. I don't believe Jason had a chance to join us today.
Sealy, like.
Whether or not this is actually a request in the general fund, his department is in the general fund, whether this is being funded out of the general fund or the road fund. So I need to follow up on that one before you make a decision on it. The next one is a request to remodel a building or a piece of this building on the first floor. Right now, 109 is the conference room on the first floor. There was a request because we are out of office space in this building to remodel that into 2 office spaces. What used to be a computer training room in the basement of this building is no longer needed as a computer training room full-time because of the fact that most of our training for technology now occurs virtually, not actually in person. And so the plan is to move the conferencing facilities piece down to that floor and then remodel by the construction of a wall in 109 to create 2 office spaces in this
A
building.
wall is $32,000.
A wall, well, it's actually 3 walls is, yeah. So again, this may be something you want to hold for. The challenge is that the nature of the work that's often done by folks in this building is of a confidential nature, given the fact that we have both attorneys and others in this building. And so unfortunately, curtains would not work from a confidentiality standpoint.
Put this in here now and just keep working through the list.
Yeah, we can consider that potentially under the capital.
Yes, that would be perfect.
Oh,
I mean,
so this
it should
could,
be in the
so
bucket.
remodels can be
It
considered.
could be considered part of
Capital?
the, yeah,
Okay.
part of the capital pieces that we're contemplating. The same would be arguable for the courthouse
Stairs.
clock stairs, but just for folks to be aware of that. If you've never been up to the clock tower, it's an adventure
It's a ladder.
to get there.
You ever seen
It's
it?
a,
It's a ladder.
Oh, let's go.
It's
It's a-
cool. You should get Jason to bring you up there. It is really.
yeah, it is,
That's super cool.
Yeah. It's cool. Like, what was once graffiti is now historical artifacts.
yeah, I was gonna say, the challenge, of course, is that particular area is part of the historic courthouse, and it is not designed to meet any kind of modern safety standard. And so we do have maintenance folks that have to go up there every day. They do occasionally have to bring equipment or repair equipment up there, which makes it a little tricky with the current configuration. So there is a request to make some modifications and put in a safe
So
an effective
let's
stairwell.
put this in the same
In the-
capital bucket, and when you're chatting with Jason, see if there's a less expensive version that would still yield some safety increases.
The next two we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, and that is the courthouse security wall and the temporary safe outdoor space bathrooms. So those are prior commitments that we've kind of made that will need to be in this year's budget, whether they go in the capital side or the one-time expense side. Those are kind of commitments that we have in place.
Can you explain the security wall and annex again?
Yes, you bet. So, and this would be putting on the Wayback Machine from Mr. Peabody. During COVID, we made several changes to the courthouse to enhance the security, both from a COVID standpoint, but also from a security standpoint. And so that involved the construction of the rotunda that's in the historic section of the courthouse, which includes security personnel. The next phase of moving towards the building eventually becoming a secure courts building is to create a standard one entry point for the public entering the building. And so the fully accessible section of the courthouse is the north door. So the side that faces Mountain Lion Bus Depot is the part that is fully ADA compliant. It is also the closest to our two ADA spots for that building. So the intention is to create a wall just inside the entryway. So when you walk in the entryway right now, you have to your left or the east side of the building, you have the coffee shop, and to the west side of the building, you have the two doors that go into the Sophie Moise room. Just past that, where we call the wand door, not Juanita, but the wand door that comes out to secure the building after hours that prevents access up the stairwells, there would be a wall constructed there that would run across, that would have a door similar if you've been to the city hall recently that slides back.
Yeah.
Where the entry to the Sophie Moise room right now, we would lose a portion of the storage that's in there, and we would actually have a security officer stationed there who would interact with every member of the public coming
So
into the
this-
building.
Looked very much like what you see at City Hall.
Very similar to what you look like at City Hall. And so at that point, that would be the primary entry for the courthouse. Folks would interact with that security officer who would determine what department
Where
they were
you're
going
going.
to, and then allow folks in.
So that-
To that-
that's past the entrance to deal with vehicle titling and all that.
That is before the entrance to vehicle titling. So this is the first step towards that process. We have had conversations with clerk and recorder treasurers, knowing that the long-term intent is for that office to move with us to the federal.
Okay.
What used to be the federal building is now the John Engen Local Government Center. That this is just kind of that first step. So we would not, at this point, we would have that interaction with a security guard, but we would not have metal detectors. We won't install metal detectors until clerk and recorder, because it lengthens the amount of time that it
Sure.
takes somebody to get into the building, and we don't want to completely obstruct the ability for the public to get to motor
Person's
vehicle.
doing vehicle titling, they would still go through.
Yes, they would just say to them, I'm here to title my vehicle, and then they would be let through to go to the motor vehicle section. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Sophie Moise primary entrance would become the second set of doors that is actually beyond the security doors, and those would become out-only doors from the Sophie Moise.
Okay.
Right.
Would there be a way that someone could do vehicle titling and then go access the rest of the courthouse?
Well, once they're through security, they would be able to access any part of the courthouse that's open to the public. We do have secure corridors and other offices that are secure inside that building, but
Okay.
they would be able to access the courthouse, which is why we'll continue to have a security presence, and the security desk is the second security desk that's in the rotunda.
Okay.
So, okay, if you're in a wheelchair, how do you get to the rotunda?
Yeah, there's an ADA hallway just before the stairwell
On the east side.
on the Yep, on the
Got
east
it.
side
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot about that. Yep. Okay.
that connects to the historic section of the courthouse.
Okay. Thank you for going through all of
Yeah,
that.
of course. Okay, so the next piece here, going down to that, is strategic planning. So this year, the commissioners intend to do some strategic planning with the elected officials. And then we also have a session with chief officers and department heads as you all review the mission, vision, values, and some of the other work with this. With those folks. And so we have a one-time request in here for $25,000 to cover those planning sessions. And then this also puts aside a little bit of money in case departments need to do some department level strategic planning. So there's about $10,000 set aside to help facilitate that. And we've used that over the years to do strategic planning at places like elections, CJD. We've used some at lands and communities, a various number of departments, communications across those.
Let's keep doing this, and at the end of this list, we'll see where we're at. But
Great. The next one is a request for funding for the Green Power Program. This is specifically around the contract for legal services. And so we have an amazing county attorney staff, as you all are well aware, but this is a specialized area of law when it comes to appearing before the Public Service Commission and working on that project. So there's a request for $33,000 this year to continue to support the ongoing legal needs for that. This is in partnership with the city of Missoula and the city of Bozeman, so they also contribute to this. And this is Missoula County's portion of the contribution. The total contribution is $99,000 across the three jurisdictions, and that goes both for the legal services and specialized contracting work that we have with various consultants for the Green Power Program.
yeah,
We have to do
we're
it.
committed.
Okay. I apologize. I don't know why that one is highlighted in gray, but it is.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yeah.
What's kind of the state of the Green Power Program? I know that there was like an information sheet. I don't know the correct terminology at all, but you know, what's kind of
The term sheet.
the term sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's kind of the next step on that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we have anybody from LAC on, like Karen, who could speak, Karen Hughes, who could speak to this more elegantly than I can, but I will do my best if she is not on to pitch it. So the next piece would actually be to file a rate case with the PSC in partnership with Northwestern Energy to hopefully get that piece approved. Once that's approved, then you can begin the process for RFPing, if I've got this in the right order. So that would be where Northwestern Energy would actually issue an RFP in partnership with the three communities to look for somebody to specifically design or propose a project. So either solar, wind, another form of renewable, and then based on those numbers that come back, then assuming again it fell inside the budget that would be proposed inside the rate case, then it could actually begin construction.
Still some steps.
We got many steps.
We gotta go to the PSC.
So many steps.
We gotta go to the PSC arm in arm with Northwestern Energy.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one, so commissioners, this one I'm actually going to ask you to postpone at least for right now, but I'll just give you the quick overview so that when we come back to it in the future. The county has been working pretty successfully with a number of our bargaining units to look at developing classification systems for our positions that include market rate data, as well as the knowledge, skills, and abilities and nature of work. So you may recall that our first step with this was moving our non-union personnel plan to a market-based system. And our next step, we've been working with the Federation of Missoula County Employees, which is our largest collective bargaining partner, to develop a classification system that works specifically with the types of jobs that are covered by their bargaining unit. And we've had really good luck with that. We continue to work with the Federation. The hope is to implement that over this next year. We've completed kind of all the precursor work of actually looking at all of the jobs, classifying all the jobs. And now we're in the piece where we're working with them on implementation. The last bargaining unit that we have that kind of covers positions of, I'm going to call them a wide and varied nature, is at the health department. And so 8512 is the job that covers everything from animal control attendants to land sanitarians. It's everybody but nurses, but nurses and management. And so we have the same kind of problem that we face in both the non-union personnel plan and the Federation, where the jobs are just very different, and coming up with a system where we can accurately compare those jobs both to other internal jobs that are similar, but also to the external market is really difficult. And so The request here is to put money aside to be able to do that work with an outside consultant who can help us to do that. That way, both the bargaining unit and the employer kind of get a neutral party to kind of help us conduct that work. And so everybody's voice is equally heard. Right now, I'm going to ask you to hold off on that because we are waiting to hear whether or not the bargaining unit accepts that proposal, as we're still in active negotiations. And so for the time being, we can hold off on that one, but that's kind of what that is. And so at an admin before final budget adoption, I may be back asking you to either put that in or take that out, depending on where we land in negotiations.
When was the last time such a study was done?
So we have never done one for 8512 or the Federation. So we did have a classification system for non-union personnel plan jobs. It looked at 15 different factors. Each had 3 sub-factors underneath it. So 45 different criteria that we looked at, but none of them actually looked at market as far as trying to determine pay rate and how the system should actually work. And so our non-union personnel plan has been in place for, this is year 5, I believe that it's been in place. And Federation, we're hoping will go into effect during fiscal year 2026. Excuse me, it's about a 2-year process to develop these. And so even if we started the study, this 55,000 would be spent over 2 years to get us to the place where we could then consider implementing it in FY27. So once we know whether the bargaining unit is on board with that, then I'll be back before final budget to ask you to either give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. This next one is near and dear to my heart. I just want to let you know that. So right now we have a homegrown permitting system called Odyssey that our technology folks built and maintain. It's really a very solid and good system, but it is also very difficult for our folks to continue to maintain that platform. And so working with planning, development, and sustainability, the health department, and other county departments that use this software, including the Office of Emergency Management, we would like to spend some money going out to look for a replacement that would actually be a commercial permitting software.
How long has Odyssey been in use?
Odyssey has been in place more than 10 years. I'm not sure if we have Ken on from technology, but I guess it's closer to 15.
This is an elder.
It is an elder and great that it is homegrown because it was less expensive, challenging because, right, I say challenging because we have limited staff that can actually support it. And when they get tasked with other projects, it makes it difficult to get changes that are necessary for this. The other big challenge is while we say permitting, and that's all the current software do, when you think of modern permitting systems, they actually do a lot of other things, including like event rentals, which could potentially be really helpful for the fairgrounds, which has a lot of rentals. Fort Missoula Historical Museum has rentals that occur at it. And when we look outside county departments, the library has room rentals. There's a lot of different places that potentially could use something like this, which would allow people to actually go online and reserve space and go through that whole process with a built-in workflow behind it to make sure that things don't get kind of lost in the shuffle. Right now, most things are emailed, scanned PDFs when we talk about those things. So we'd like to look for a more holistic replacement. It is a large ask, $100,000 to kind of begin that work towards looking for that, but this would involve a third-party consultant that we've used in the past called Infotech to go out and actually work with departments, gather up all of the requirements necessary for that, put it out through the request for proposal piece, and then help us to evaluate that to make sure that we get software that actually meets as many needs as
It's a
possible.
little like the DIAC's request, and that this isn't buying the actual thing, it's just
It's
doing
not.
the legwork.
It is not buying the thing, it is doing the legwork. But I do know that it is a large request in a year where we don't have a lot of one-time funding. So I'm not sure. Anne's been kind of tracking where we are on the numbers. And so
Because it's, then the next step would be buying the thing, which could be substantially more.
it will be substantially more.
Big. And we're talking something that's 10, 12 years old.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
I've been keeping track of the capitalized
Oh,
ones, so those aren't included in this. That total right now is 579,000. Without the permitting software, you're at 130,660.
Okay, so we still have some. space.
Available,
No,
Of a total.
spent,
spent.
So we still have some space.
committed.
Yeah, so let's just, thank you for doing that,
Of
super
course.
helpful.
Yeah.
Let's put this, I'd say let's put this in and keep going the list, and then we have to go back through the list again.
Erica is out today, so I may ask us to push this employer-funded flexible spending to Thursday when she is back in the office so that she can talk about that one if that's all right with the commission.
Sounds great.
Okay, the next one is the overhead book scanner. This is for records. I will mention that records has very few requests, but these are the folks who deal with all of ours.
This already.
I don't believe so. We do have a book scanner for the smaller books, but this is the one for the books that we cannot take apart. So these
Yeah.
are the old Commissioner Journal land use books that
Yeah.
basically are bound that Keith talked to you about. And so this is we did a different scanner for them last year. This is the one for books that cannot be unbound without destroying them. And so
This is part of the process of digitizing historical records.
correct. And part of preserving them because of course they do fade over
Yeah.
time and we have records going back into the 1800s. So bless you. So my suggestion would be
Yes.
for that
Yeah.
we kind of have to. The next two here, I'm going to just put together, even though they are a little bit different. They're both for the surveyor's office. And so I know that Mike has talked to you a little bit about these. So we, Montana statute around surveyors is really unique in the fact that county surveyors have to have a special certification in order to be a licensed county surveyor as opposed to just a general land surveyor. And they have to pass a special test in order to do that. And so Mike, who is our current surveyor, is one of the folks who has that certification. The other person who has that certification is our retired surveyor, Steve Nide. And so in order to keep up with the number of survey requests that we get, it is more than Mike can do on his own. And so over this last year, on a very limited part-time basis, we have employed Steve Nide for some of his time to be able to help kind of keep up with the number of requests. And they are making a request this year to kind of continue that arrangement to hopefully do that. I will say from talking to John Hart, this has been really helpful when he's been dealing with some of the really challenging issues that we've had around where you might recall this up in the 9 Mile area. We had a road that was completely off center line. We needed to work with the adjacent property owners to change our rights of way in order to be able to get where the road has actually been driven for decades to now actually be in the right of way. So we've had to give up some right of way, take different sections of road for right of way to do that. That's the kind of work that they do. As part of that, the data collector is the other piece that kind of goes with that. And that is basically what allows them to do the field work out in the real world, connected to satellites and all the fun things. And so that is a small one-time request for about $5,812 for that actual piece of equipment that they need to use out there. And then obviously the personnel piece behind it, even with Steve working limited hours, is the larger of the two requests at $52,000.
Fortunate to have somebody with that state certification available.
And yes, agreed.
Okay. The library green roof we talked about. The request for this year is a $50,000 one-time contribution and then a $50,000 one-time contribution towards the match of the $1 million grant.
Can that be financed at all or no? That's not a
We don't
thing.
usually, we just don't usually
Got it.
finance something like that. So my recommendation would be that it
Just do it.
just be,
But $100,000 gets us $1 million.
Yep.
yes. Yeah. The next one is actually another one for me. This is the International Association of County and City Managers. It's a $1,000 request for membership in that. I certainly understand if we need to bump that out this year. That is a new request. I joined that group for the first time this year at their conference in Kalispell. That's where I was last week. I will say that conference was really beneficial. Because
I think it should stay in there. It was important that you were there.
Push us over.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I was gonna say, but it is one we could definitely hold off on. So the next ones, I think Adrian's on. Yep, I see Adrian. A couple of enhancements for the 911 center, which are the last of the kind of general fund. And these are a little bit mixed because the 911 center also has some special funding in there. Adrian, I don't know if you want to talk about these or you want me to just give a quick overview. What would you?
I
like?
will try to be very brief and let you fill in the rest if that works.
Absolutely.
The first item we discussed a couple months back is priority dispatch software. This would this would allow us to go from a clunky kind of flip chart system for when we have emergency medical calls to
This is the
quickly
literal,
prioritize. And yeah, exactly. You remember my prop. Yeah.
Yeah.
To quickly prioritize and determine the nature of the call, but also to be able to provide pre-arrival instructions so that those 911 dispatchers on the phone with that individual patient or caller can provide them some basic medical direction while awaiting the response from our first responders. We believe that this will allow us to have a better training experience, not only for our new dispatchers, but also for our existing workforce, as well as this is an ask that's been coming at us from the field, from our first responders in a way that we think will get more consistent typing of calls, as well as reducing that time to dispatch. One-time cost for implementation and then ongoing maintenance as we continue to have that software. The next item is 911 console replacement. So when we think of consoles, this is the desks, the workstations that the actual dispatchers work at. 24/7 operation on these. They're over 12 years old at this point, so starting to show some wear and tear, unable to get parts for them, and so we would need to replace all of those consoles to maintain consistency and for that work environment. As Chris mentioned, a little bit of a mix with the funding source here in that we do have access to the quarter fund, quarter being appropriately named in that we get quarterly distributions from the state. These are funds that are generated from every landline phone as well as every cell phone. You pay a quarter per month. That goes into a state fund, and then that is reallocated to jurisdictions based on largely population. And so we have the trust, what we refer to as the quarter fund, where we have that revenue coming in.
So the couple of things that I would just add, just because I have to, because it's me and I started as a 911 dispatcher 27 years and 4 months ago. Wait, that was a long time. The dispatch software that Adrian is talking about for priority dispatch, we are still using the same flip card system that I started with in 1998. So it may be time for an upgrade, just saying. The other piece is folks might wonder why the 8 workstations are $204,000. I think just highlighting what Adrian said about the fact that they are used 24/7. Those systems actually are built to be completely redundant. So in a traditional computer, like sitting here on my desk or might be sitting at your desk at home, typically has one hard drive in it, typically has one fan in it, typically has one power supply in it. These all have 2 of those so that if any one component fails, the dispatch station doesn't go down, because the thing we don't want to happen is you're on the phone taking a life-saving call and all of a sudden the computer shuts off because a hardware component has failed. And so you can think of each one of these workstations as actually 2 workstations in one. There are literally very, very few components where there's only one of them that can cause, its failure can cause the actual failure of the station itself. So they are more expensive than what we would typically buy for a department, but that is really because of the nature of work that's done.
And how much of these costs are coming from the quarter fund?
I think the proposal, Adrian, for these was for the dispatch software to come out of the quarter fund, and if needed, the consoles to come out of the quarter fund.
Correct.
If needed.
Yes, because there is we do recognize that the general fund is limited. This isn't a current planned expense for the quarter fund, but it can come out of the quarter fund.
If the quarter fund absorbed these expenses, are there other things the quarter fund is expected to pay for that won't get paid for?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment in that if we were to take this money out of the quarter fund for the console replacement and priority dispatch, that would set us back in some of the initiatives that we would want to do in future years. We do have that set up in that we draw from the quarter fund every fiscal year to cover our operational expenses or those expenses that are eligible for quarter fund expenses. And we try to keep a balance in that quarter fund for not necessarily a rainy day, but for some of the higher end cost maintenance that we have to do on our public safety radio, as well as some of this very expensive equipment that does have a replacement cycle, like our phone system, for example. And so we would have to look at kind of what that drawdown would do to us and do some kind of strategic planning around our deferred maintenance.
I guess, and you may not be able to answer this right now on the spot, and I totally get that. But if we were to split the console costs with the quarter fund and the money we're talking about spending right now, would you want to think about what that would look like and what the effects would be on y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would certainly give us some breathing room, but I can look at that a little closer.
The quarter fund's pretty healthy right now, isn't it, Adrian?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can look at that and we can revisit maybe on Thursday. I can try to get with Adrian between now and then.
Great.
We can
Yeah,
talk about
maybe
that.
that 50-50 isn't I just pulled that out of the air. If you guys chat, maybe come up with a better ratio.
Yeah, based on time, I'm gonna just recommend we do the Bonner tax increment and the broadband, and we probably break there for today and continue the rest at our Thursday meeting. And we'll also hopefully be able to come back with an answer for that. And then we can look at what these capitalized projects that were in the general fund and give you an idea of what, if we were to capitalize those, what the debt service would be on those.
Great.
So Andrew, I don't know if you want to talk at all about the Bonner Mill Site tax increment for the landscaping projects. That's Bonner Mill Site 2.
Yep, we're anticipating a request for tax increment financing at the Bonner Mill site to do some landscape planning. So hire a landscape architect to do some landscape plans, kind of spruce up the Bonner Mill site along the public way. It's visible from the public right of way. Yep. And so it's just getting it in the budget. It would still have to go through a public process and get approved by the commissioners at some point in the year when the actual applications.
And would this be covered with an increment?
Yeah, it's cash. We drop the money.
This is special. Yeah, this is special fund.
That's easy.
We are out of the general fund
Easy to say.
into the other funds now. The last one, just because it's a relatively straightforward special fund one, is a request to use some of the broadband franchise fees for some updates to conference room equipment. I don't know. I don't think Ken is on, but I'm guessing between Ann and I, we can probably pitch it for this. So just as a reminder, what the broadband fee piece is. So yeah, cable television is required to enter into franchise agreements with local governments for use of public right-of-way in order to lay their cable. Because of that, we get a small amount of money from them on a continuing basis that goes for two things. The first is to provide the public access channels, things like MCAT. So we have an agreement with MCAT to be able to broadcast our meetings like they are today for this, and then for other work that they do for the county, helping departments with, creating videos for, kind of promotional things or educational things. They've helped with a whole bunch of projects around the county. And then the second piece is to replace the equipment in our conference rooms that can be used for public meetings. And so that includes meetings like this where meeting rooms like this where MCAT can connect. The Sophie Moise room, for example, they can help to replace the audio and video equipment inside there because, again, they're used as part of that public process in order to be able to make sure that the public can access those meetings. And so this is non-general fund, non-tax revenue in the fact that it is not property tax revenue. It is a tax that people see on their cable bill or cable television. And then that portion goes to this. So again, not using general fund dollars here for looks like about $7,500 worth of updates this next year out of those.
To this conference room?
I'm not sure. I don't remember if this one is, I believe this is Sophie Moise, but I would have to double check with Ken on that. But this conference room, Sophie Moise are kind of the two main ones that qualify. And then
What about downstairs in B14?
no, it used to be when B14 was a public meeting room, but then when it went over to Sophie Moise.
Oh, got it.
The other one that has an MCAT drop, I believe, is the OEM conference room out at the election center that's shared with the elections space.
Okay.
That also can qualify because of the connection to MCAT for that purpose. But I believe this one is for updates to stuff in Sophie Moise, if I remember correctly. But I would want to double check. Okay. That is where I think we're going to pause for today.
Great, thanks.
So without including any of the travel, the NACO, your general fund approved requests are at 387,472. And then your capital is at, I was wrong before, 479 because I put the library in it. So I took that out, 479,000 for capital, possible capital financing, and 388 for
For that
fund.
Mountain Towns,
Which still leaves us 120-ish.
Roughly, yes. So that may allow you to do the travel and some of those other items. So
Mountain-
Well, let's wait till.
We'll know
we hear
for
back on the
Thursday.
finance
yeah,
and put
we'll
that
know for
positive.
Thursday. We'll be able to present.
I don't think Stromeyer can go to Breckenridge, so it should be 2 participants instead of 3.
Oh, really? He's
Okay.
out of town.
Okay.
Uh,
We can check on that.
Check on
Yeah.
that, because I thought there.
I do not know the answer to that. Okay, with that, commissioners, I think we got where we needed to get through one-time requests for today. And we will take up the rest of them at Thursday's admin at the end, once we've gone through consent agenda and other items.
Okay, and then I thought that there was like a vehicle, oh, okay, whatever.
There's the building codes is the next one, which is the vehicles, I think you might be thinking
Okay, well
of,
then I thought.
that you approved the other
Sheriff's
day.
Department had a vehicle, but I don't see Sheriff's Department on here.
That may be to increase their ongoing capital line for vehicle replacement, because they have an ongoing capital line for vehicles, because they have to replace a certain number each year. So
Okay,
it wouldn't be in one-time requests.
I thought it was something special. Never mind. Okay.
That I do not know.
I don't know, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. This is what I have today.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. You have questions?